Hey, what's going on? Eddie here with Guitar Mastery Method. We help thousands of guitar players all around the world, just like you, take your guitar playing to the next level. And today I'm going to be showing you 5 beautifully bendy blues scale guitar licks. Now these licks are based on the blues scale, which is the minor pentatonic scale with the added flat fifth, or the blue note. But what I like about these licks is that they break out of the typical pentatonic box, so they're in the key of A, by the way. And you know how we do our typical A minor pentatonic, or if we're doing the A blues scale, right? It's in this position. These licks are actually going to break us out of that first position minor pentatonic and move us up the neck a bit further. So we're actually going to be using the 3rd and 4th position of the pentatonic scale, and they go like this. Okay, that was position 3, and I threw in the flat fifth in there so you can hear where the blues scale fits in that pattern, and here's position 4. Now in the description box of this video, you'll find a link to download the reference material, and it'll give you diagrams for both of those pentatonic positions. All right, so again, all of these licks can be found in the 3rd and 4th position of the pentatonic scale. So let's go ahead and start lick number 1. All right, so let's break down this lick. So the first thing I do is with my 2nd finger, I slide into the 14th fret of the G string. Then with my 1st finger, I'm going to play the 13th fret of the B string. And then the 15th fret of the B string. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to do a half step bend. So I'm bending from the pitch of this fret to this fret. And that right there, that's our flat fifth, right? That's our blue note. So we're essentially bending to the flat fifth. So you don't want to bend too much and then do a whole step bend. In this case, we really want to nail that subtle half step bend, right? All right, so we'll bend up to it and then release. Okay, then we play the 13th fret on the B string. Then now we're going to come back to the 15th fret on the B string and do a whole step bend. And we're going to hold that bend in vibrato. When I'm doing a whole step bend like that, I like to kind of shake the guitar a little bit. It kind of lets gravity do the work for you. Plus, I think it just kind of looks cooler. So it's a win-win. So we start with sliding up again to the 14th fret on the G string. Then we go 12 on B, then 13 on B, and then 15 on B. We're doing that half step bend, then releasing it, then back to 13 on B, then back to 15 on B, and we do a whole step. So we're bending from the pitch of this note to this one. So we're passing what that first bend was, which was this note. So it's subtleties like that, in bending that you really want to get good at. You don't want to just have sort of one style of bending or only be able to play whole step bends, right? You got to be able to do those in between, those subtle bends. That's how you really get that magic touch, So the cool thing about this first lick is we do both. So we start with the half step bend. All right, and then the whole step bend. And then after we're holding that for a little while, we're going to pick the note pick the bent note, right? And then release it. And then we're going to end it on the 13th fret of the B string there. I'm going to do it one more time for you, nice and slow. Lick number 2 kind of has a David Gilmour vibe, and it goes like this. So what I'm doing here is I'm actually kind of flirting with the minor scale a little bit, doing that half step bend here. So with my 2nd finger, I'm starting on the 12th fret of the B string. I'm doing what's called a ghost bend. It's when you bend without actually picking the note, right? You do the bend kind of preemptively, then you pick it after it's bent, and then you slowly release the note. So it creates this kind of sort of dipping sort of sound. Okay, so we're gonna go from the 12th fret, we bend, and then pick the note, and then release. Then we're gonna reach over to the 14th fret of the G string with our third finger here. Then, I like to use my second finger for this, just for the added help, because this is gonna be a whole step bend. We're gonna bend the 12th fret on the G string to the pitch of the 14th fret. So it's gonna go like this. All right, and you could use your first finger. I'm a little more accurate with the bend when I use my second finger. That's just kind of force of habit, but you can use your first finger if you like. I like to use my second finger because then it allows my first finger to just really help get that bend right, you know, and also to prevent my finger from getting caught on any of the strings going up. But if you bend with your first finger, you can bend downwards, and you're way less likely to get your fingers caught on any of the other strings when you bend downwards. All right? But like I said, I like to use my second finger. So we start. All right, then we release that bend. And then we're going to reach over to the 14th fret of the D string with our third finger, play that note, and then with our second finger, play the 13th fret, and then the 14th fret again. So it's like this. So let me just play the whole lick for you in context real quick. I'm going to do it one more time for you, nice and slow. And we just want to hang on that last note, the 14th fret of the D string, and then just give it a nice, subtle vibrato. You know, you don't want to give it that kind of spastic vibrato. You know, just slow it down, take a deep breath, force your hand to slow down. Again, this is one thing I like to use gravity to help me out with, right? So what I do is, with this type of vibrato, it's kind of similar to like Eric Clapton's type of vibrato, where he would just kind of hang his hand off of the fretboard like that, or off the neck. And again, gravity would just do the work, right? But I'm not taking my whole hand off of it like that, but I'm just kind of moving the string up and down, and again, letting the guitar sort of rock back and forth to sort of meet me halfway with the vibrato. That's how you get that nice sustain, and the vibrato is nice and subtle, but you know it's there. All right, and those two licks are in the 4th position of the pentatonic, and now we're going to move to the 3rd position for the next two licks. So lick number 3 goes like this. So nice and simple. Similar idea to lick number 1, but we're bringing it down an octave, so it gives it a whole new texture, right? We're sliding up with our third finger to the 12th fret of the A string. And I mean, I don't really know, I don't pick like a specific fret where I slide up from, but I'd say, you know, I try not to go like from all the way down here, because that just takes too much time, right? So if you want, just so you have a reference point, you can slide up from the 10th fret and just do it that way. Then we're gonna play 10 and 12 on the D string. So we have, and then next, we're going to be bending the 12th fret of the D string. We're going to be bending just a half step, right? So we're bending from this pitch to that pitch. So we're bending to that pitch and then bringing it back. So this right here, that's our flat 5th in the, actually both the 3rd and the 4th position of the pentatonic scale share that flat 5th note, right? So we're just kind of in between the patterns right now once we reach this note. But we're just going, right? And you can just totally hear the blue note there in that half step bend. Right, so we bend it there and then we release. Then we're playing the 10th fret on the D string. And then what I like to do is when I hit the 10th fret, I like to give it what's called a blues bend, which is, or a quarter step bend. So it's not quite a half step bend. It's like you're just starting to bend the note and then you stop, right? So it's you stop it before it starts to sound like you're making a half step bend. Now it's something you don't want to overthink. You know, sometimes it can be hard to sort of mince between quarter step bends and half step bends. But just know that it's one of those things where if you play the note and then you start to hear the pitch going up, right? You start to hear the bend happening. That's essentially where you want to stop it, right? So we do, that's what's called a quarter step bend. So we're going, right? Makes it sound extra bluesy, right? And then we're going to end it on the 12th fret of the D string and then vibrato that one. So here's all of lick number 3 played nice and slow. All right, lick number 4, we're going to remain in the 3rd position of the pentatonic pattern, right? And we're starting from the blue note, which is actually here on the 11th fret of the high E string. Or actually, sorry, we're starting on the 10th fret, but we're going to hammer on. So we're going to hammer on from the 10th fret to the 11th fret on the high E string. All right, so that registers as a, blues scale part of the lick, right? Then we're playing the 10th fret again on the high E string. Then we reach over to the 13th fret on the B string. And then we play the 10th fret on the B string. And then we play the 12th fret on the G string. So far it's... One more time. And then once we're in this position, we're going to get our 3rd finger ready to go back to the 13th fret on the B string, because we got to have a bend in there, right? These are bendy licks. So we bend a whole step from the 13th fret to the 15th fret. So we're going from the pitch of this note to the pitch of this note. And this bend happens kind of quick. You want to go, right? And then we're going to pick the note again as it's bent and then bring it down. And then land on the 12th fret of the B string. So this is kind of a B.B. King meets Stevie Ray Vaughan kind of lick. It kind of starts B.B. King and ends Stevie Ray Vaughan. So I'm going to play the lick for you one more time, nice and slow. And for the end of this lick, since we're landing on with our first finger on the last note there, you can do what's called that butterfly vibrato. This was a big thing of B.B. King's. He would sort of fan his hand out a little bit, like a butterfly, and just do almost like a circular, almost like a half arc kind of motion. So it's not like earlier with the Clapton vibrato where it was just straight up and down. The B.B. King vibrato is more like that. Like more radial, I guess. And then kind of fanning your fingers out just kind of, again, helps with gravity. It helps kind of make that movement, a little more aerodynamic compared to if you're doing it like this. So I'll play the lick one more time for you. All right, and finally, we're getting to lick number 5, which is the most challenging of all the licks in terms of the bendiness of it. And it goes like this. So right out of the box, this lick starts out with a pretty tricky bend, but this is, when you pull it off, it is such a fantastic bend, technique to add to your repertoire. It's where you bend starting on one string, and then you release the bend starting on another. So we're going to start by bending up on the 15th fret of the high E string. So we're bending from this note to this note. But then while we're up here, while we're in this neighborhood, you see how we kind of cover the B and the high E strings because you kind of have to, right? Those strings are right next to each other. So once you're covering them both, it's like you're while you're up here, so you're essentially fretting both strings. So what you want to do is you bend up, and then when you release the bend, so it's like you can almost like tag team it, right? You start from the high E string, then while you're bent up there, you play the B string, and then you release the bend. The grimier you can do it, the better it sounds. And the next part of the lick, you kind of hop off of that pretty quick. So you go. So what I like to do is I'll do that sort of tag team bend. And then as I'm bringing it down, I'll mute the high E string with my middle finger here, just to make sure that doesn't make any excess noise I don't want. And then I'm landing on the 13th fret of the B string here. So you do bend, tag team, release, and then you play the 13th fret on the B string, and then have one of your fingers on your picking hand just kind of there. I mean, that's if you're making noise on the high E string, then you can think to do that. If you're naturally not making noise on the high E string, then you don't even need to worry about it. But my hands tend to do that, so it's just sort of a damage control thing that my picking hand does. And next, once we're here on the 13th fret of the B string, we're gonna come back with our third finger to the 15th fret, and we're gonna do another half step bend. So we're bending to that blue note, then we're hanging that note, then with our pinky playing the 15th fret right above it. So it's this almost dissonant double stop kind of sound, but it sounds really cool, especially when you do it, as like a passing momentary kind of thing. So far in the lick we have this. And then we're gonna release the bend. We're gonna pick the note and release the bend. And then we're landing on the 13th fret on the B string again. And then here comes the big mamma jamma of bends. We're gonna do a step and a half bend, where we bend a whole step, right? Then we're gonna go even further and bend another half step above that. So we start from bending to this, to bending to this, and then back to 14. So it sounds like this. So what I like to do is I'll start, so do it one movement at a time. So start with the half or the whole step bend. Then while it's up there, give it a little extra push. But not too much, right? You want to hit that. All right, this is getting into Dave Gilmour territory. Then you slowly release the bend. And then you pick the 14th fret on the G string and then just vibrato it out. All right, now I'm gonna play the whole lick for you nice and slow. So now that we know these 5 licks, what do you say we put them to the test? I'm gonna pull up a backing track in the key of A and play these licks in a sort of order that I feel like they fit, and we'll see just how good these licks can sound in context. I was feeling that. Those licks, in my opinion, sounded perfect over a slow blues type track. There's plenty of space. You can kind of decide, I was not really going through the licks in any particular order. I was just kind of feeling out what licks would sound over what chord change in the backing track, and it just seemed to work. One thing I will recommend though is to, when you learn these licks, kind of have them go on in your head as if you're singing them to yourself. So that when you're improvising to a backing track like this, you can think, okay, I know how this song, or I know how this this lick sounds. So if the melody, if I sing it to myself in my head and in anticipation, it sounds good with what's coming, boom, I'm gonna play that and let's see how it works. It's kind of what was going through my head as I was going through them. So when you learn licks, even if you're not a singer, because trust me, I am not a singer, just having them in your head, just singing them in your head or to yourself, you know, whatever you want to do, it's really important that you internalize the melody that way. Because these licks, you know, like they're fun, but they're also subtle, and they have like a lot of nuances to them, and they're very vocal in a way, especially because there's a lot of bends going on. So keep that in mind when you're practicing to the track. You know, sing them to yourself and then anticipate how they're going to sound with the upcoming chord change. So in this lesson, we've scratched the surface on ways that you can bust out of that first position minor pentatonic box by playing in patterns further up the neck that use that flat fifth, that blue note, to create that spicy, bluesy, beautifully bendy kind of sound, right? But imagine being able to play that all over your guitar's fretboard. I got a free gift for you that's going to show you how to do exactly that. A free blues guitar solo heat map that's going to teach you how to make red hot blues solos of your very own. So click here to download it right now. And if you've enjoyed this lesson, you know the drill. Be sure to smack the subscribe button and hit the bell notification icon so you can stay up to date on all the lessons we got coming your way. Well, that's about it for this video. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you've enjoyed this lesson as much as I've enjoyed bringing it to you. I'm Eddie with Guitar Mastery Method, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.